Glory to Jesus Christ.
Glory forever.
The second Sunday after Pentecost offers us a wonderful reading from the Gospel according to Apostle and Evangelist Matthew about calling of the disciples. And for sure, we should be amazed at the speedy response of these four men who immediately followed the call of Jesus Christ, even though they knew more or less nothing about Jesus. For their parents, friends, co-workers, it must have been a great madness that they could hardly understand. Why would you follow that guy? Although this gospel quite naturally leads us to consider vocations to the priestly or religious life, we must not allow one very important principle to blend in or to be hidden from us. One very important principle or law of spiritual life from this gospel is hidden into this gospel. We probably know this principle from experience from our Christian life. When God's call is heard in person's soul, and now I mean all those small calls that encourage bigger or even small steps within our spiritual life, it is always, absolutely always connected with the necessity of losing something. We hear in Gospel today, immediately they abandoned their boat and father to follow him. It appears that Zebedee, their father, did not believe, and it is for this reason that James and John have left him by the boat to follow Christ. Do we see when it becomes necessary to leave one's father? When the father, or if we take a second to use our own personal life, then father can become many things: news, ungodly friends, activities that become more important to us than prayer and church and God, or even our own personal desires can become, in quotation marks, the father in today's gospel. So when is it necessary to leave the father? When the father becomes an impediment to the virtue and reverence towards God. It is impossible for us to advance in our spiritual life without first renouncing something of this world or cutting some bond that holds us to the earth. Naturally, as Christians, we ought to ascend. But this kind of attitude can look and seem a little bit crazy. Maybe not a little bit, just crazy. And sometimes it is only known to us, to our own personal decisions. But sometimes these decisions are visible to people around us, to our families and friends. And for sure, some who know us very well will certainly have problem with understanding why we are voluntarily giving up things that might not be even sinful, that just bring joy into our life and some good pleasure. At the moment, we probably won't be able to give them a good, reasonable answer to their questions. And at the moment, we will be put in the same positions as the four apostles from today's gospel, who felt in their hearts that following Jesus Christ was the most and the very most important thing, but they definitely could not explain or justify to anyone why they made the step. They just knew that this is the life they wanted. Years later, they would already be able to give correct answer. But it was because of the 3-year journey with Jesus Christ in the presence of Him, going through all the good and bad that led them to have a good answer. From this, we understand more clearly the mentioned principle or the law of spiritual life. And I didn't write it here in my notes, but it's not just about cutting off things. It's very easy to cut off things. We have the experience from Great Lent. We give up this or that, we get satisfied, and then we go back at it after Lent. The spiritual is much more difficult because we cut off our certain pleasures, our desires, whatever pulls us away from God. But we have to also fill this emptiness that these pleasures or desires have filled our life with something good. God, prayer, fasting, spiritual reading, gospel or Bible reading, scripture reading. That's where the switch is. To cut off things is simple, but to add things that make our life valuable, that make our life, or not make our life, but give our life what's the word? Point of interest. Then we hit hard wall, because suddenly we will find out that it is very difficult to cut off our own will, our own desires, and to add something that is godly. But that's the fight we are supposed to do. We are called to be disciples of Jesus Christ, and this is what we are called to do. Responding to God's call and following it even at the cost of renouncing many worldly things is an act of faith that leads to an ever deeper knowledge of God. We can't wait until everything is clear to us. That somebody says that, well, you have to do this, and you are saved. Each person has a different life. And spiritual life is tailored to that person's life, if they choose to live it. In this way, we will, if we wait, in this way we will estrange our whole life, stagnate our whole life with the danger of slipping into delusions that we are okay, or even heresies. And God visits us with strong thoughts, and He does it every single day, sometimes every single hour or even second, to give us good thoughts, to push us in the right direction. He wants us to draw us closer to Him. He expects our trust as He expected it from His disciples. He expects our faith, our willingness to leave something of the worldly in order to gain something for us that is from heaven, that gives us beautiful journey towards our life. Glory to Jesus Christ.